Just let your soul glow.
Welcome to the Soul Shift Sessions podcast, where we dive deep into transformative conversations that empower you to elevate your mindset, break through limitations, and create the life you truly desire.
Hosted by Coach Sapphire Star and Coach Kyle McLeod, this podcast is your go-to source for actionable insights, inspiring stories, and expert advice on personal growth, financial freedom, and living with purpose.
Each episode is designed to help you shift your mindset, overcome obstacles, and embrace a life of abundance and fulfillment. Whether you're looking to transform your relationship with money, enhance your well-being, or unlock your full potential, the Soul Shift Sessions will guide you on your journey.
Welcome to another Soul Shift Session episode where we have deep, transformative conversations to help you transform your mind and transform your life. Today with me, of course, is my favorite co-host, Coach Trent.
The transformation architect, Kyle McLeod, here in the house. Let's rock.
That part, and Freedom and Financial Life, Coach Sapphire Star. And today we are talking about how to build confidence and self-esteem. I love this topic for us today because in the green room, we had some very interesting conversations about,
As we typically do.
yes, about feeling good, looking good, and what are some things that you do to be able to accomplish that. So hopefully
Yeah,
we'll be able to go into this deep dive conversation because it's definitely always deeper than the surface.
always.
Always deeper than
Always.
the surface. So, how do you feel about this topic today?
All right, so as a recovering low self-esteemer and also a recovering low confidence person,
Mm.
I don't want to say that I'm in love with this topic, but this topic resonates deeply because I've had to do so much work in it. I remember attending a retreat earlier this year, and we had to like identify what life was like, I think at age 8.
Oh,
And but the exercise was a little different because we had to write down like all these positive things, all these negative things around that time. And what I discovered is at age 8, I was what you would call on the razor's edge. And what I mean by that is prior to age 8, I was living with my parents and my grandmother's house. I had 5 uncles, 4 of which were married, and they were all over. The husbands, the wives, they were all over. It seemed every single day. So there is music being played. My uncles and my grandmother and my parents, they're playing pinochle. My youngest uncle is in the attic. He is practicing his DJing skills with his friends. So there's all this stuff going on. And it was like a party for years. I want to say for at least 4 years, we had this party. And I never wanted to go to anybody else's house because I was too afraid of missing what was going on in my own house.
mm.
And that summer, where I completed the 3rd grade, I went to Florida. I mean, not Florida, I went to Alabama for the summer, not realizing that while we were gone, my mother and father were going to purchase a new home in Plainfield, New Jersey, which is going to be about 30 to 45 minutes away from my grandmother. And I did not know that everything was going to change.
Wow.
So I came from a place that, like, what support looked like was a full family. I was encased or engulfed in love, if you will. But then when we moved to Plainfield, now it's just my mom, my dad, my brother, and my sister. My mom still has to go back to that side of town for work. And not only that, my brother and my sister also went to school out on that side of town. Every morning during the school year, by about 6:30, 7 o'clock, they're gone. And they're not coming back until the late hours of the evening because she was a school nurse by day and an ER nurse by night. I would see them in the morning and then I wouldn't see them again till the evening time. So I went from a support structure of all these people to one,
Wow.
which was my dad, because my mom wasn't she wasn't really there. She was working. And so if you are in an environment that is full of support and love, your self-esteem could be like really high. But then when it goes down to one and the one isn't really supporting you the way you need,
Mm.
you're being exposed to the elements. Like you are literally like the shelter I had was gone. And I
Wow.
didn't realize, I was too young to realize that was going to change. And there was a lot of things I had to figure out on my own. I had to figure out about the making of new friends, and thank God for football. I got a chance to play football for a few years. But at the end of the day, the support structure jumped off a cliff when we moved to Plainfield. And so I think that when it comes to self-esteem, at a young age, a lot of us can be affected based off of the environment that we're in. Some people will rise and thrive, and others will fall into a place of protection where they feel like they have to protect themselves from everything. And I think that was on the latter side.
Wow, such a profound way of really delving deep because you have me now thinking about that very question about what was my life like at 8 years old.
Hmm.
And like you at 8, wow, I grew up in a
Hmm.
very big household. It was me and my 2 younger brothers, but I had 14 stepsisters and brothers.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and so there was never a dull moment in our home, always barbecues and seafood,
Mm.
low country balls, having seafood and playing cards, and people like on the weekends are always over there. But my situation was a little different in terms of my self-esteem and happiness because it went from my mom, and my brothers. And then when my mom met my stepdad, I was around 4 or 5. It was like we were thrown into this house of many people, many children.
Mm.
It was a lot to take in at a very young age and not really knowing. So mine was the opposite of yours, of not really knowing what is happening, who are these people, and then having to
Yeah.
adjust at a very young age.
Yeah.
I felt comfort being in the shadows because there were so many moving parts. And
Yeah.
so I started to go within. And it felt very
Interesting.
comforting to be like in the background because I didn't want to be seen. I didn't want to be heard amongst all these things that are
Yeah.
happening in my life, and so
Yeah.
I retreated inside to find comfort for and confidence, like, in myself.
Would you say that was out of building yourself up or avoiding something? When I say avoiding, protecting yourself, was that your way of protecting yourself, or was that your way of building yourself up? And I'm
It
asking
was
for a specific reason.
it was definitely for protection. It was definitely for protection because I didn't always feel like I had a voice amongst many voices and
Yeah.
many opinions, and our ages vary widely. So
Yeah.
it was just trying to be like, how do I fit into all this? So my
Yeah.
response to that was like, oh, go inside. And it didn't help that I was born blind in my left eye, and
Okay.
I suffer from optic nerve hyperplasia, which meant that in my left eye, the optic nerve didn't develop fully. So that also caused me to be cross eyed. And so I was bullied, I was picked on. And so for me, it was just like cower inside, don't look anybody in their eyes.
Yeah.
It was bad.
Yeah.
It was bad.
It's my protection story was a little different, but it still ends up being the same result because when we lived in Plainfield, I went to elementary school for 3 years. And then after that, I went to St. Benedict's Prep in Newark. And the thing is, Newark was a different city. Newark was a little bit like where I came from, but I left that at such a young age that I wasn't aware of the dangers that lurked in Essex County. And the on top of that, when I lived at my grandmother's house, her street, which is Warrington Place, was literally one block. It was a one block street. On one end, we lived on one end of the corner, and at the other end of the corner was a Catholic church and school, which we did attend for my first 3 years. But the thing is, Warrington Place was, if it was an oasis that in the desert, that's what it was. Because East Orange, New Jersey, that area was hood. But Warrington Place was like an oasis. I didn't realize that the people who lived on my street, some of them were in such kind of business that you didn't want to be involved in that kind of business. And that also is the reason why our street was so peaceful. There were no guns on our street. People didn't show up. There was no shootouts. There were no people showing up when fighting. None of that happened on our street. Happened around the corner.
Right.
Everything happened around the corner. But because I was so isolated from it, I wasn't aware of really the dangers that lurked in this type of neighborhood. And lived in Plainfield. Now I'm going to Newark. And Newark got these, they have, it's just a different kind of city, especially during that time. There was gangs, there were people getting robbed, there were stolen cars, there were people getting held up at gunpoint. And these are all the things that I experienced over my 6 years while I was there. My parents did not train me for this kind of life. They did not train me to expect things. They didn't train me how to defend myself. Whereas you went inside out of protection because of the family dynamic that you were put in. I learned to be invisible so that I did not draw attention because attention usually brought pain.
Mm.
Whether that pain was a physical attack where it was being bullied. My first day of school, Sapphire Star, day one, the guy in our group was jumped by like 6 kids from another school.
Wow.
We're walking in one direction, they're walking another direction. As we're meeting, they just jump on him. He's the biggest guy in our group. I don't even know this guy. Like the only person in the group that I know is my older brother, who also is not trained on how to defend himself. Okay. And it was over as quickly as it started, but I had never seen such brutality
Mm.
in a just random brutality up close and personal. When you take the city, the bullies in the student body, and let's be honest, back in the early 90s, late 80s, even the teachers, all the teachers were not the nicest. And I wasn't taught how to be in that environment. So the best way to, or I should say, my solution was become invisible. And becoming invisible means you don't raise your hand in class. It means that you don't speak up. It means that you avoid any type of potential pain.
Yep.
You just avoid it. Go the other way until it comes to you and you're forced to deal with it. And even then, I dealt with it from a victim mentality, not from a mentality where it's like self-preservation. It was self-preservation, but not the kind where it's overtly and me fighting back. It was going within and taking the abuse and hoping it's over as quickly as it can be.
Wow. Is there a point or an age that you were able to identify, like, how you've been navigating or a turning point for you where you were like, "Okay, I recognize what this is. And then, okay, how do I make a shift? How do I build confidence and self-esteem? What was that pivoting turning point for you?
That pivoting turning point was late in my adulthood. Because now it has changed. It's metamorphosized. I don't even know if that's even a word, right? But it has changed over time. So where I am avoiding pain as a kid, it looks a little different as an adult, but it's still the avoidance, right? Now, instead of trying not to have all the attention on me, and now I people please. Now I make everyone else happy so that I don't feel the effects of people being upset at me. So it's turned into people pleasing. It's turned into keeping my feelings to myself, my emotions to myself. It is turned into lashing out when the pot boils over,
Mm,
right? It's turned into all these different things as an adult, not realizing that what I've done is I've taken all of those things that were traumatizing, I put them away in a closet somewhere, closed the door, locked it, put some cement over the door, laid some bricks on it, and then maybe even did a mural over that so it looked like it was never a room in the first place. So
mhm.
now this room doesn't exist. And it takes someone else who knows about this kind of stuff to pull that stuff out of you. That turning point wasn't until late as an adult, after I've had a wife and kids and a house and all those things, that I realized that what I'm experiencing now is a result of a decision that I made when I was 11 years old.
Wow. Same here because like you said, even though the dynamic may shift in terms of, oh, you're a child and you're in this house, even when you're no longer in the circumstance you were in, this
Yeah.
was a survival mechanism that
Yes.
you develop, and
Yeah.
that just carries on into other areas of your life. And for me, it was okay. Another thing that I developed was having accolades, being able to say, I check boxes off, I'm successful in this area, I've accomplished this. Again, to take, and it may sound like that's backwards, but it was just to take the attention off of me and put it on
Yeah.
these things. And then in the workforce, I did the same thing, hiding in the shadows, not wanting to attention, allowing the accomplishments to be that avatar for me so I don't have to be seen, not confident using my voice or speaking up for myself. Nope, I'll just sit back here.
Hiding behind the accomplishments, it sounds like.
Yeah,
Is that what you're doing? Hiding behind the accomplishments?
yes.
Yeah. That's wild. Because I didn't hide behind the accomplishments. I just hid. Right? I
Yeah.
just
So
hid.
like
That's
you
all.
said, that you build something like, so the accomplishment was in certain stages of my life, right? So the accomplishment was my closet, my room that I put the bricks in front of, or the mural, like the thing you just described to hide behind. The accomplishments was a cover amongst
Yeah.
other things. So it's like, how do I continue to fortify this thing so I'm not seen? So that thing could be the accomplishment. It could be something you've created,
Yeah.
again, for you to hide behind
Hide behind. Yeah.
and not be seen, or people are focused on that. They're not focusing on me, the person, and who I am.
We love hiding behind the scenes.
We do.
I'm going to tell you right now,
It feels safe.
if I worked for you, I would do everything to push you up and to the forefront and build you up
Yeah.
so that I don't have to be
You don't have to be seen.
so I don't have to be there. I don't have to be seen.
Wait, so are
Right?
we still doing this?
Not to the degree in which it was before. What I mean by that is if I align with you, especially like in business, you are going to get everything that I can possibly do to help that business grow. Because it's not because of the business, it's because of the care that I have for you as the person. But in the process of realizing that, I also know that I have to do things for myself to put myself, let's say, out there, whatever out there means. But the bottom line is, I still have to do things for myself, because if I don't, I'm just going to put everything into somebody else. Not helpful. It doesn't accomplish the goals that I want to accomplish. It may help, it may assist, but it doesn't, it's not the totality. It's not the full meal, if
Yeah,
that makes any sense.
absolutely. You said something earlier about the extent that you were doing it before. What are some things that you have done to help you come out of the shadows slowly but surely, or breaking that wall down, that brick
Well,
wall, that mural, that closet? What were you doing to get?
the first thing is, it has to be pointed out. For me, it had to be pointed out. Like, I wasn't aware. It's almost, if you have a pair of sunglasses on, if you wear those sunglasses long enough, everything just looks normal if you wear them long enough. And then it takes someone to say, hey, why don't you take those sunglasses off so that you can actually see the things that you're not seeing. And for me, that was Sean Smith. Sean Smith, when he does this demonstration about the layers that we put on based off of the experiences that we have. One example I'll use is that he describes how, when his parents were expecting another child, as great as that was, the question starts to sink in, what's wrong with me?
Wow.
And it's a joyous occasion, but wasn't I enough? Like, why do you need another one of these?
Wow.
And it's like instances like that, I think, that we have, that we just start building these different layers. Because when we say what's wrong with me, we still need that answer. And if you don't come up with the answer that is like helpful, called there's nothing wrong with you, then we're going to substitute that with something else. And that something else is going to be a belief. And remember, I've said this before, a belief is just a thought you keep thinking. The minute I come up with an answer of what's wrong with me, the minute I keep thinking that, now it's a belief. And beliefs can be a little hard to get rid of, because depending on how deep that thing has set in, it may take a Sean Smith to help you see that you've got all these things that you pent up and put somewhere and tried to act like it didn't exist anymore. So that was the turning point, was being shown that I've got these things going on. The second thing is, once you are aware, you got to choose. Are you going to keep going the way you've been going, or are you going to do something different? And then
Action.
if you're going to choose to do something different, what does the something different look like? What does that look like? And I think it looks different for all of us. For me, it was paying more attention to the signs, right? Case in point, I had already started doing some self-development work on my own. I had already figured out that, thanks to people like Brene Brown, that we all need someone to be able to offload
Mhm.
that stuff that we're dealing with. But you know what? We don't all have that someone. We don't all have that one person that can handle the weight of what we're dealing with. And so, in those cases, what do you do? Because you still have the stuff to deal with. And so, for me, I did a lot of listening to self development. I started journaling. I started listening to a lot of audios that resonated with what I was trying to accomplish. And then one day I get a message from a friend of mine, Mike, and he's, "Are you coming to the retreat?" And mind you, he said it in a text message as if we had a conversation about this before. Sir, we have never talked about this retreat. I know of it, but we've never talked about me going. But instead of going down that road and then saying, all right, how much does it cost? And and like, how much is the flight going to be? And do I have the dates? And do I have the time? Do I have the money? Instead of doing all that, I just said yes.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm coming. I don't know anything about nothing. I don't even know what to expect out of this men's retreat, but I'm going to come. And I think that attitude of being a yes to things that just may make a difference in your life, I think that the process of saying yes starts to transform you.
Mm.
By the time I got to the retreat, I had already done so much work on myself that I didn't it seemed like it was a miracle retreat. It seemed like in one day Mike had done everything that we possibly needed to do and we were good to go. But everyone at that retreat, I believe, had already been working on things prior to. And when we got there, I think it just made everything just so much easier because we had already been doing the work. We were already yeses to transformation. All of us were. And so that was probably a year-long process, Sapphire. Not close to a year. But there are things that were resolved at that retreat that have never bothered me again.
Oh, wow.
We did the work.
That is powerful. So what I'm hearing you say is there was some limiting beliefs that
Yeah,
you had to identify the
yeah,
limiting beliefs. You had to choose actions to get
yeah.
the results that you want, and you had to put in the work to make things happen, which further fortifies your beliefs and diminishing your limiting thinking. Did I get that
Yeah,
right?
we got to create new beliefs. We have to create new beliefs because you have beliefs anyway.
Yeah.
So why not choose beliefs that work? When I facilitate a course and we talk about beliefs, I walk them through this process of just understanding what a belief even is, a thought you keep thinking. And then I tell them as a homework assignment, and I'll give you all this homework assignment. Y'all can put it in the comments. Identify 3 limiting beliefs and don't do anything with them. Just identify them and then wait 2 weeks. See what happens over the 2 weeks and then come back and report. Report back what happens. I'm not even telling you to do anything with those beliefs. Just identify them and notice them when they come up. And what is a limiting belief? But something that you believe that restricts you in some kind of way.
Mm.
Limiting. And that, I think, just in the noticing, I think that causes change. Because when you notice things about yourself, when you're looking for things that you've noticed about yourself, it's like I have a limiting belief around finances. My limiting belief is that I never have enough. Now, we can't go anywhere with that. But instead of saying, I never have enough and trying to do something about it, just notice when that thought comes up. Notice how that thought manifests itself, such as, let's all go on vacation. I can't afford that.
Mm. There you go. Limiting belief.
It's coming out in your speech. And you've heard me say this before. Don't sit there and try to modify the words that are coming out of your mouth. Because if the thought is there, it doesn't matter if it comes out your mouth or not because the thought is there. So, what I need you to do is notice the thought. And if you practice noticing the thought, eventually you might say, you know what? This particular thought doesn't serve me. Now, what can I replace it with? And the cool thing about replacing it is you can make it up. You can make up a thought that you choose to keep thinking, which becomes a belief. You can make it up. You made it up anyway. You made up the limiting belief.
Or you were influenced some type of way or some
You
experience
were
that you held on to be absolute truth, and it's not. There's very few absolutes
very few. Dying is one of them,
in taxes.
and taxes is another. But the rest, we get to make it up.
Yeah.
And if you can make it up and merge it with emotion, which is what you talked about in the previous podcast about, you said, see it, believe it, and then I believe it was do it afterwards. Is see it, believe it.
See it, believe
No, I'm
it,
sorry. No,
feel it,
see it, feel it,
feel it,
believe it.
believe it,
See it, feel it, believe it, do it.
make it happen.
Make it happen. And we have to feel it. Whatever that thought is, we have to feel it. Because if you feel it,
Makes it
it becomes so much stronger.
yes. It becomes a living, breathing thing. It's alive. It's very real to you. And I like that you
Yeah,
brought up the financial living belief because I just conducted a workshop, the 4-step financial freedom framework. And I always begin, when it comes to money, I always begin with the mindset around it. And I talked about your beliefs, and your beliefs fundamentally leads to your actions based on what you believe, and your actions are going to get the results from your actions. So how do we break that cycle? There are
yeah,
two things that you can do. You can change your beliefs, and you can change your actions to get the results that you want,
yeah,
right? But I'm firmly an
right.
action person, like you said. It's okay identifying what that belief is, but also creating new thoughts around the limit, the
Yeah,
thoughts and beliefs. Keep thinking, the
yeah,
thought you keep thinking,
yeah,
action. That's so powerful. The action behind it, because now you have this new way of thinking and belief system that you keep thinking. Then you have to start acting and choosing. That's how you're going to get the results. And it's this beautiful little framework that you create. But you have the power to break whatever cycle that you're in because you're not getting the results that you want. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. You have
yeah,
to change your beliefs. You have to
yeah.
change your actions.
So, one of the challenges that I've had with people who speak for a living and do motivational trainings and so on and so forth is a lot of times they will either focus on the belief or they'll focus on the action.
Mm,
And then to the listener, it's okay, which one
is it?
am I supposed to? And it's very easy to get caught up, especially if you are, we'll stick with finances. If you are feeling the financial crunch, it is very easy to think, all right, what do I have to do? What do I have to do? What actions? And we're just like action focused, trying to move the needle, not realizing that there is this belief that is preventing it from happening. And it sounds so spacey that the rational mind doesn't want to accept that all of this is not working because of what's going on up here. The rational mind is going to say we're not doing something correctly
Yep.
physically. And that is something that I struggled with a lot in the past because it just took me a while to accept that it starts up here first and then it's the rest comes afterwards because it don't sound right, Sapphire Star. It don't
And human
ring.
beings, we have a tendency to make everything as if it's rocket science. And our minds are created in such a way that in order for something in our minds to be valid, to be poignant, to be powerful, it has to be complicated. It has to be difficult. It has to be this rocket science mentality in order for it to be prolific. Complete
Yeah,
opposite. Complete
yeah,
opposite. It's so simple. It's really that simple. It's not always easy, but it
yeah,
really is that simple of adjusting and shifting your mindset. It really is.
I heard the speaker say, words don't teach, experience does. And she was so focused on us not focusing on the words, but focusing on how we feel.
Mm,
And when I take that concept and apply it to one, having the mentality, still sticking with finances for now, applying that to my mentality around finances, but there's still that action part that still has to happen. But where the disconnect is that I don't think people get that the mindset and what you decide to do in regards to how you're feeling about something leads to the appropriate actions. Because the actions that are appropriate for you and get you the results that you want are not necessarily the same actions that are for me.
absolutely.
There are some actions I think that one plus one equals two, right? But there are some actions that are unique to you. And I think, remember, if we when we talked about success and what success looks like, success does look different to everybody, especially if you actually taken the time to identify what success actually looks like to you. And then when you've identified that and you've identified what your limiting beliefs are around that particular subject, and then you choose a new set of thoughts. Mind you, I'm saying choose a new set of thoughts. They're not even beliefs yet. It's just I'm choosing a new set of thoughts. My actions can come or be directed by those new sets of thoughts. And oftentimes it doesn't have to look the same way as what everybody else has done.
Mm.
And I'll use a practical example. Just because I am marketing this product and other people have marketed products by using sales funnels, that doesn't mean that you have to use a sales funnel to sell and market your product.
Absolutely.
It could be word of mouth. That could be your claim to fame, is that I didn't even make a funnel. I just told some people about it and it caught on fire.
Yep. Yep.
All because I was open to the thought that I could do this differently and that I don't have to do it. I don't have to walk the same road that everybody else has walked on. And if you listen to some of the people that are influential in our lives, they'll probably tell you that nobody's walking the same road. We're all walking a different road, on a
Amen.
different path.
And that right there, what you just said, was what began the journey of me coming out of the shadows,
Hmm.
realizing that I am uniquely me.
Hmm.
And I think this is in a song. No one can do me or do you better than you. When
No
I
one could do
say
better.
that released me, because
Hmm.
it allowed me to say, wow, there's no competition, there's no comparison. I don't have to feel like I'm trying to compete with all these children in the house, all these people that are around
Yeah.
me, even in the positions that I was in as a clinical laboratory scientist. I
Yeah.
listen, I got here just like them. And I don't have to compare myself. I don't have to dissect my experience and say my experience wasn't their experience. I can fully and boldly walk into who I am, I have to say, because I am confident in who I am as a person, who I am
Yeah.
as Sapphire Star. I don't have to
Yeah.
be nobody else. I don't
Yeah.
have to compete. None of that. When I say that authenticity of just accepting and embracing who I am and knowing I have something to offer as who I am. God created me for a specific purpose. I am that one who is to do that purpose. And the prerequisite for that belief is to begin surrounding yourself around like-minded, like
Yeah.
beliefs People,
Yeah. Yeah.
reading books that feed into the belief, spending
Yeah.
my time around things and people that is building that belief because it has to be cultivated. The seed can be
Yes.
planted, but you have to tend to that belief. You have to protect it. You have to water it. You have to make sure that you pull the weeds out because the weeds are going to try to grow up in that belief that you have start believing. You got to pull them weeds out. You got to cultivate it. So those are the
Yeah.
prerequisite. But honey, when you find it, oh, hold on to it for dear life because that is going to be what delivers you. Don't make me
You
start.
know, the while you were talking, what I was immediate when you start talking about the watering and how you have to cultivate it, the first thing that came up in my head was the distractions that are designed to keep us away from what you're talking about. Social media.
Mm,
There was a time where there was no social media. You're old enough to remember it. I'm old enough to remember it. But have you ever noticed, or maybe even done this yourself, where you find yourself, my guilty pleasure is Instagram. And I found myself on Instagram and I'm just scrolling, scrolling, and scrolling until so much time has passed.
see,
So much time, like more than an hour has passed. And I don't do that anymore. And if I am on social media, I am very aware, okay, I am going, the minute it starts feeling inappropriate or wrong, I don't need to be here because the minute this starts feeling incorrect, I'm out of there.
mm,
I'm off. But I also noticed that it has extended beyond the phone. I'll notice that YouTube will come on the television by one of the members of the family. And they'll go from video to video to video. And the thing is, the videos are not always feeding the soul,
so
they're not always feeding the intellect, but it is feeding something. And it's that part of you that wants to disassociate and detach. Nothing wrong with disassociating and detaching for a period. But these systems are designed to keep you plugged in, similar to the Matrix, right? Like the people
absolutely
were plugged into the system, and the Matrix fed them the dream world that they were in as if it were the real world. And
beliefs,
you can look, say again,
belief.
belief, right? And if you look at some of the content that comes across on YouTube, there really isn't a whole lot that's being looked at to feed the intellect, the mind, the body, the soul. We're not looking at a lot of that. We're looking at gossip,
Yeah.
celebrity news, what's going on with the baby oil, right? We're looking at all that stuff, right? And as horrific as some of the things are that people do online that we're seeing in the news and so on and so forth, as horrific as some of those things does it require my attention
Mm.
to the degree in which it's been getting from some of us?
Oof.
Does it really require that much attention? He in jail, no bail. They found a lot of baby oil. Now, do you feel like going on and moving on with your life and building whatever it is that you're trying to build for you, yourself, and your family?
Absolutely.
And so I find that I'm reading, I spend more time reading, I spend more time by myself without the television on. I find myself on the water, paddleboarding. I find myself on my bike. And I used to not even understand how people could listen to podcasts while they were cycling. Now I can listen to something that's not music while I'm cycling because it's something that I'm genuinely interested in. Some of my best ideas might come while I'm cycling. Some of my most peaceful moments might come while I'm on the river. And I think that's missing for a lot of us is doing those activities that feed and nourish our mind, our body, and our souls. There's not a lot of that going on. Instead, it's been replaced with Facebook, Instagram, YouTube,
TikTok.
TikTok. It's
Yeah,
been replaced with those things. And even in the political realm, they figured that out, right? They figured out to take all of their content and throw it up on social media to get the people engaged and bring us more polarized and create more division. It's all right there waiting for you in social media. It's right there.
absolutely. And most people and what they've created are sheep.
Mhm.
And you not having, I don't want to say you don't have the ability. You're not thinking for yourselves. Someone else's thoughts are becoming your thoughts because they are feeding into your beliefs. And we have been so programmed and conditioned, you don't even realize because you've been doing it for so long that these thoughts are not even your thoughts. You own them as if they're yours. But
I
someone
love this part. I
has
love
been
this.
feeding that. And now your actions and your results is based on somebody else's belief and thoughts that you would even have the time to even say, wait, do I believe this? Is this fundamentally what I want and do?
Oh my gosh. I believe I've told you this story before, but before I was aware of where one of my friends stood politically, before because we never talked about politics, I remember him saying, as if this is his thought, right? And that this is probably during this last campaign between Trump and Biden. And the comment was, I believe that Trump is what's standing between us and socialism.
Mm,
And he said it like
it
it
came
came
from your
from in
soul.
here, right? It was an original thought, regardless of what your political affiliations are. What I'm about to say has nothing to do with that. It has everything to do with what you're saying, which is you didn't even know because not too long later, I want to say within the same week, a commercial comes on, which was a political ad, and there's these people in the room, and it's like a focus group type of thing. Mind you, there were plenty of black people in this focus group. And they get the black lady who looks like a regular class working woman. And she says the same thing, word for word, Sapphire Star.
Bar for bar. With the soldier boy. Word for word. Bar for
I
bar.
believe he is what's standing between us and socialism. Word for word. I was like, what do you know? Even my friends are susceptible to brainwashing because, again, not about who your political affiliate or who you line up with politically. It's about it is so easy through social media, or we'll just say the media, for them to slip that thought right into your mind and make you think it was your thought. It reminds me of Inception. I don't know if you
Mm.
saw that movie with Leonardo DiCaprio,
I have to go back
but
and
they
watch
were
it.
asked,
A lot.
say again,
I'm gonna have to go back and watch it because you bring it up a lot and I can't remember the movie.
Inception is so relevant in this climate because the one of the characters is asking Leonardo DiCaprio's character, is it possible to plant a thought deep in someone's mind? And Leonardo's friend is like, no, that's not possible. It's not possible. And he's, yeah, it is. Not only is it possible, I've done it. I've done it. And the thing is, though, what he doesn't tell you is that him doing that was so dangerous that it caused him to lose his wife to suicide because he planted a thought in her mind and she always thought that she was sleeping and did not realize that she was awake. And the way you get out of a dream is if you die. And so in her mind, she wants to get back to her life with her kids. And the only way to do it is to die by suicide. And he's
Wow.
trying to convince her that this is the real world. You are not sleeping. But she is not convinced.
Wow. Because in her mind,
In her mind, this was not reality. This is a dream. And I need to wake up from this dream. We need to wake up from this dream.
amen.
And it's the thing about Inception is that it's a small thought. It's not a big thought, right? And you've heard me talk about doubt. That's what doubt does to us, is that it bypasses your defenses and plants a small thought called you can't. Two words. You can't. And then when that you can't takes root, it becomes the belief. And
It's not yours.
it's not even yours,
Yeah.
but we'll act like it is. How many times have we said I can't about something that there really is nothing physically stopping us from doing? How many times have we heard that or seen that? As you said, it does really start in here.
Yeah.
And confidence, if we break that down, the root word is confide. What does confide mean? It means to trust, right? So if I have confidence in myself, that means that I am trusting myself.
I got to give the celebratory snaps
Oh, snap.
when you're dropping gems. Like it has to be like that. Like we can drop the mic right there. Like my soul is stirring. Like my soul has shifted.
Yeah.
This put in the comment section. Do you feel a shifting in your soul? And if nothing else, tell us how you feel about this episode in terms of finding your trust in yourself, finding confidence, believing in yourself. Because I do firmly believe in, because this is what we're here for, Soul Shift Session, is to add value to one
Yeah.
another. Because we would
Yeah.
love to hear that. But also, you never know how your experience and process can help someone else. Like, I can't think of the guy name. What was the guy name at Ignite who spoke with Lisa Nichols in LA?
Yes, Sean. Sean Smith.
Look at that, full circle. Sean Smith. I'm so bad with names. I'm so bad with names, but I can see his face clear as day. He
Yeah.
was like, your deepest, darkest wounds is someone else's wings. So please
Yeah.
share. So
And
Kyle, what's your quote? We gotta get the quotes in.
oof, I think I've said it. Confidence is believing in yourself.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
And the question is, do you? Do you believe in yourself?
Mm,
Because I know that I didn't understand confidence to mean that. I thought confidence was this overt showing of capability.
mm.
It's not that. It's just, do you trust yourself?
Wow. And see, that goes great with my quote.
I'm with you. I'm
My
ready.
quote is confidence is not always feeling like you have to be right.
Mm.
It's not, I want to make sure I say it, is not being afraid to be wrong.
Confidence is not being afraid to be wrong,
Not fearing to be wrong.
not fearing being wrong.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that confidence itself is that might be a podcast all by itself because it's elusive if you don't know what it means.
Yeah.
And for the longest, I did not know what it meant. But now I do. Now I do trust myself. Not all the time.
And you're doing the work to cultivate
Yeah.
it. You're doing the work to water that and it's growing and
Yeah.
the fruit of your labor, you're going to experience that as you're going through
Yeah.
this season and this harvest that you're going to reap is bountiful. It's going to be
The
bountiful.
biggest mistake is thinking that you'll get it done.
Yeah.
We never get it done. There's always some place to go. There's always another level to go up. And the minute you start looking back and just admiring what you've done and what you've accomplished, the minute you start doing that, resting on your laurels, I cannot tell you how many times I felt so good about just where I am emotionally and physically that I'll sit back on my laurels, and next thing you know, we go right back to that episode of when shit hits the fan.
Episode 3 on YouTube.
Episode 3. We go right back
What
to
to
episode
do?
3.
Go right back to episode 3. What to do? You get back in the game. Put me in the game, coach.
Hey, let me
Put me
tell
in
you,
the game, coach.
that's what happens. This is what's going to happen. Someone's going to see this episode, they're going to feel good, and then they're going to be right back at episode 3. Oh, here we go. We
Here we
go back to
go.
this episode.
Yeah. But we give you the tools. We give you the resources you need
Yeah.
to use to help you get out of it when it does hit the fan because it's going to. Don't act like all of a sudden
Yeah.
you've arrived because now you have these new beliefs, you have new actions, you're getting the results.
You're,
Life
you're
is
ultra
going,
confident.
yeah, you're ultra confident. Keep that. But also
Yeah.
understand that life is going to life. And that's okay too because that has
Yeah.
the ability to strengthen our beliefs and who we are firmly and it causes us to reflect and don't ever forget.
Yeah.
Don't ever forget. And so those things, like you talked about I can never remember the quote you said about the contrast. The
You
contrast.
did not come for the struggle, but you did come for the contrast.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that really is it, right? When your faith is tested, when your confidence is tested, when your beliefs are tested, that's contrast. But the
Yeah.
thing is, when I'm tested, am I going to revert back to
Old
those
beliefs.
limiting beliefs that I had before? Or am I going to stand firm in my confidence? Or C, am I going to call a lifeline? Because I'm pretty sure that if I am in a scarcity moment, I can call you and you won't make me feel bad or wrong or judge me for being in a place of scarcity, knowing that I preach against that.
Absolutely.
But you will gently work with me through that so that I can see what I can't see.
Absolutely.
And so I recommend calling a lifeline whenever you can.
Yes, and I talked about the last episode is having a tribe of like-minded people to help you. You're not
Yeah.
alone.
Yeah. You're
You're
not invincible.
not invincible.
You're not impervious to limiting beliefs or thoughts.
Yeah.
You're not.
Yeah.
But you can have a tribe that can hold you accountable,
Yeah.
and you can have a tribe that will hold your vulnerability and work with you, reality check whatever needs to be reality checked, and give you the empathy that you need to be able to move forward.
Yes. And if you don't have a tribe, just subscribe to Soul Shift Sessions podcast because we're here for you. Like we are here for you in the comment section. We will be here for you. The conversations that we're having. This is what this podcast was designed for to help you
Yeah.
get through to the 2.
I didn't know what to expect out of this conversation.
Ah, me either. We never do. It was so good because when you said the 8-year-old, I was like, "Oh, are we going there?"
We're going all the way back there. We're going all the
If
way
you
back.
had some pearls, I would have been clutching them. Like I want to get some pearls because you stay having me clutching my pearls in these sessions. I'm gonna
The,
go get some
the
pearls.
thing is, when it comes to that self-esteem, it's not that I haven't met people that have high self-esteem. but I don't know who started out the gate with high self-esteem. I don't meet too many people that they started out the gate with high self-esteem and they maintained it throughout.
Mm. You know what I've found? And this is my perception. I've found that people who are just being themselves, to me, are the most confident because
Yeah.
they're just being themselves. There's
Right.
like, they're not trying to be anything else. And to
Yeah.
me, that comes off so confident, even with imperfections, even with whatever. The fact that they're solid in that, oh,
Yeah.
to me, that
Yeah.
is such, to me, that exudes confidence. And that's what gave me the permission to be like, oh, let me just be myself. And
Yeah.
people, because really confidence too comes off as someone else's perception of you.
Yeah.
Right? And how they define, like, what you're doing, and it has nothing to do with you. Because somebody may look at me like, "Oh, she's so confident," and somebody else is like, "Oh my gosh, she's not." And in my mind, I may or may not be feeling confident in that moment. So it's almost like what someone
Mhm.
else thinks about you or whatever. And I've released my that people pleasing and wondering what people think about me and what I say.
Yeah.
I'ma do me, and that's gonna
Can I
be
have you share a
confidence.
story? Can I have you share a story? You spoke this past weekend,
I did.
right? Or was it this week? It was this week, right? No, it was last weekend. It was last
It
week.
was it
You
was
spoke.
Saturday, Friday past.
You had an approach. You had a plan for the way you were going to approach it.
Yeah, yeah.
And then we did a little work together and I this thing about you being you. And I was like, how'd that feel? And you're like, that
It
didn't
didn't feel
feel
like
good
me.
at all. And I was like, because you're not being you.
Yeah, yeah.
So can you tell us what was behind the not being you? And then since I haven't heard how this experience went afterwards, I want to know how it felt when you finally delivered it being you.
Absolutely. And so the challenge and why I wasn't feeling like myself, because I was trying to construct something out of fear. I was trying to create this reality as a protection and something to hide behind because I was afraid of people staring at me. Oh, wow. It's getting deep. 'Cause
You're like, wow.
I never understood why that just terrified me so much. But now as we're talking, I'm like, "Oh, because I can't hide. I'm like everybody's staring at me." And so
Yeah,
wow, that I'm having a moment right now because I'm like, that's where that is coming from. Everyone is staring at me. I can't hide behind it. And so essentially what I was doing with the way that I was orchestrating my speech was I was trying to create something to hide behind to
hmm,
protect myself, to not feel fearful, but it didn't feel like I was being myself. I'm like, this is not me. It's not me, but I didn't know how to navigate that. Coach Kyle, the transformational architect, he really helped me move those barriers. He helped
yeah,
me dismantle the structure that I was building up to hide behind. He
yeah,
was like, "Move that out the way." I'm like, "I need to move it out the way." But no, I need
put it
to
that way.
move it out the way. And
Yeah,
when he helped me navigate that, it was so powerful because it was like, "Girl, you don't have to hide. It's okay to be seen.
yeah.
Be yourself." And that gave
We love you, right? We love the experience of you. So give the people what they want.
the people what they want. And that I will say I walked into that leading ladies level up retreat with so much more confidence before an event because I always have these jitters. But I was just so calm and more confident in that moment that I've have been ever really, and I've been navigating this public speaking for a little bit. I started early this year, but that really set me free, and I got up there and listen, I was myself. I shared my story, but I was also able to teach this
Yeah,
financial empowerment workshop to help
Yeah.
people with their finances and their limiting beliefs behind finance. I felt so good about it. And honestly, it didn't matter what people thought. It didn't matter what people thought about me during
Right.
that moment. What mattered was I was able to share my story in hopes that I can empower someone else, just one person. And so
Yeah.
it was really good. I got a lot of good feedback. People were just like, wow, thank you for sharing your story. They were
Yeah.
sharing their stories with me. And
Yeah.
so it was such a great experience. And thank you, Coach Kyle, for coaching me through
I
that.
want to say, I want to say thank you for the way you worked with me on that one, because it wasn't impromptu, but it might as well have been impromptu, right? Because we didn't take a lot of time for this. And I think that you showed me where I can shine in regards to helping people with public speaking. I don't want someone who's brand new at speaking. I need someone who's got some foundation,
Framework.
because right, because you and I worked two football players in the film room, right?
She
This is the approach, this is what I'm seeing, and then you got a chance to say what you were seeing, and we were able to come up with a plan that wasn't too daunting, but was going to up level what you had already been doing. And to me, it was one of the most exciting moments. The whole process, I had so much fun working with you on your talk, because we were dissecting it
yeah,
like two people working on a project.
right, yes.
But you were the project. Project was you, but you stood outside of you
Yeah,
and worked on it with me like two mechanics, and you got a chance to do it. So I thoroughly appreciate that opportunity to work with you that way. It was like gold for me.
it really was, like, yeah, that was a beautiful thing, and like I said, I thoroughly thank you and appreciate you for helping me navigate and even this episode, like, I'm really, like, unpacking, like, where because sometimes it's hard to identify, like, where is this coming from? Especially if you have buried that thing so deep.
Yeah.
Like, I used to say because I'm a Gemini, and
Mm,
there's duality there. There's a part of me that's very analytical, very conservative, and there's another part of me that's free as a bird, can care
yeah.
less about what's going on, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
"Wee." But there was a
Yeah.
time in my life where I thought I had to be either or. I died to the free spirit in me, and I buried her. I was like, "Oh no, you got to go." I buried
Later the rest.
later the rest, you can't live here anymore because we can't be both. And the conservative, the analytical, the prim, proper, code switching sapphire, she's going to survive. And I named her name was Samantha. Her name is Samantha. I buried Samantha. But oh my God, that's like killing a part of who you are.
Yeah.
And I got to a point in my life and I'm like, I'm not doing this anymore because it was killing
Yeah.
me on the inside. I thought
Yeah.
it was gonna solve something. It wasn't. So I had to
Samantha was like, "You'll be back." She's like, "You'll be back. You can put me in this ground for right now, but I guarantee
I
you, you'll be
guarantee
back.
and listen,
You'll
when
be
I
back."
tell you, when I resurrected Samantha and I only walked into, I am the sum of my parts. And whoever
Yeah.
has an issue or problem with it is not my problem. It's
Right.
their problem. Maybe they need to go to Jesus or whoever they talk to about it. And so I resurrected her and I am every day confidently and boldly walking in who I am, all the complexities, all the duality. There's beauty in this. No one is
Yeah.
created and designed like me. Who am I? Who am
Organized chaos.
I to challenge God and be like, what you doing here? God was like, no, this is who I created you to be because
Right.
now you're giving others permission to be who they are.
Yeah. There's a reason why organized chaos is your company name.
Absolutely. It's an oxymoron, but it works.
Hey, we love the chaos. Love the chaos. You on stage talking about my company name is Organized Chaos, and this is what you're going to
This
experience.
is what you're gonna experience. This is what you're gonna get. Absolutely.
This has been a very nourishing conversation for me, especially today.
Yeah.
I deeply appreciate you being on the line with me today. So, gang, be on the lookout because we are going to have more after hours type of conversations that go beyond the podcast. And we haven't figured out exactly how we're going to put it out there yet, but we're going to put some of these offline conversations out there.
Thank you so much for tuning in to another Soul Shift Session podcast. We hope this conversation has helped you or opened the door for the transformation that's going to happen in your mind first and then happening into your life. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. And listen, sharing is caring. And if you know someone that
Yeah.
can use a soul shift, please share our podcast with
Yeah.
them. Any final words, Coach
Yeah, I
Todd?
do have some final words. If you need a speaker, Sapphire Star would be an amazing speaker on your stage. And if you need work up leveling your speaking game, give me a holler.
Coach
No
Kyle is
newbies.
a coach.
No newbies. You got to have some experience being on that stage, and then we
Yes.
can work.
How do you define experience? How much experience do they need to have?
You know what, to be honest, if you've been on that stage twice or more, we could probably work with something. Because if you've been on there once, that's enough for you to have felt what it's like being on this. It's enough for you to actually evaluate what you've been doing and what's working, what's not working.
I love that. How do they get in contact with you?
CoachKyleMcLeod.com. Go there, you can find me.
Awesome. And I'm Sapphire Star with 2Rs.com.
And we can Sapphire Star with 2Rs.com. So
yeah.
this is
And you
going-
can find actually both of us on soulshiftsessions.com. All our information, our socials are there.
You can find our websites right there, soulshiftsessions.com.
Yeah.
Yep. That's awesome.